Bitcoin is up past 30K, guys. That happened late last night. Pretty awesome move. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen a 6% gain in the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin correlated stocks like Coinbase, Marathon, MicroStrategy, they're all up at least 5%. And some of these Bitcoin mining stocks are even up over 10%. A lot of Bitcoin stocks or stocks correlated with Bitcoin kind of trade like beta plays. So whenever Bitcoin goes up, they're going to go up even more. And that trend has only continued with this recent rally. Of course, this comes after pretty low lows in December, right? We're feeling around 16, 15K, and now we're up over 80% year to date. So put a little juice in the back of everyone's pocket right now, which is great. This is also happening amidst tightening in the rest of the economy. One little factoid to throw at you is the fact that the NASDAQ volatility and Bitcoin volatility are the widest spread that we've seen in quite some time right now, which sort of points to investors saying, hey, we see a difference between NASDAQ stocks and Bitcoin, which is good stuff. It's the decoupling that we've always wanted. Whitney, I'm going to throw this one over to you. Get your thoughts on it.
Oh man, I have to tell on myself now. So I had to travel last week, and one of my trading rules is do not trade and travel because I've lost a lot of money doing that. So I closed out my long, but I'm glad that I closed out my long because I think my stop would have gotten hit. And yeah, I wasn't able to catch this move. A little bit sad, but I still do have my spot. Bitcoin, which is a lot larger than my trading portfolio. And it's just very exciting. I think we'll be able to easily target about 31,800. That's where the kind of the next area of resistance is. Some people may be targeting like 31.2. But it's exciting to see Bitcoin actually perform well, especially when we are in an area of uncertainty when it comes to global economics and global money, and with the CBDC coming and how all this stuff is happening. So Bitcoin could in fact meet that narrative of being a hedge against the US dollar. So yay, go Miss B. Zach, what are your thoughts?
I like how the piece says there's no apparent news driving the increase in price. So I'm just wondering, guys, what do you think this is? Is this people responding to that New York Times piece and just being like, Bitcoin is good? Let's do this
even read that
thing?
piece?
Or like, I read that piece. What a piece. It was a great piece.
I wrote
It's
a blog
part of our
post about
job. It's part of our job, but I feel like most people in crypto that see that kind of rubbish on mainstream media, they're just like, I'm not even going to bother, especially Bitcoin Maxis. Like, why would you read that when you know half of it is not even true? And it's like painting a particular bias because they want Bitcoin to be banned in the US. Like, I don't know. I don't think people care about that piece.
The Bitcoin maxis are very much some of the discourse. They read everything that mainstream media puts out, which is just ironic, but it's sort of a fact here. Zach, I want to get your take on the decoupling, though, because that's been a narrative that we've talked about for like years at this point, right? And we are seeing that divergence for the first time with this recent rally.
Yeah, super notable. I mean, I think that the idea of Bitcoin establishing itself on its own terms is super important, right? It's not acting like it was during the last bull cycle where it sort of traded just like any other risky tech stock would, right? It's sort of establishing itself on its own footing in a period of macroeconomic uncertainty. As you know, it seems distant now, but remember when all those banks were failing? Remember when all that stuff was happening? People were worried about a banking crisis. The idea that Bitcoin seems to look a lot better in investors' eyes in the wake of some of these bank collapses remains really powerful and potentially compelling for the Bitcoin narrative going forward. So, we had the ordinals thing kick off a lot of interest in terms of building on Bitcoin. We had sort of the banking crisis kick off a lot of interest in Bitcoin as being an alternative to some of these problems that we were seeing in the traditional financial system. So for those two tailwinds to be pushing Bitcoin up to where we're seeing it now is certainly important and interesting. But Will, I think you're absolutely right to focus in on it being different from the rest of the market, when historically over the last few years we've seen it act quite similarly to the rest of the market. I guess my question back to you is, what do you think is fueling that? And do you think this is that real moment in which Bitcoin is starting to act like something truly different?
Yeah, and I'll go back to the stat I threw out earlier and give a little more context for it. So according to Kaiko, which is a great research team out there, everyone should definitely go follow, the volatility for NASDAQ and the volatility for Bitcoin, the highest divergence that we've seen year to date, which is a great indicator that these two things are separating, right? People just see them as like different assets. And I don't quite know what the reason for this is, right, Zach? So like going back a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we're talking about Silvergate and Signature and SVB, all these bank explosions. And it was a great moment to be like, hey, I can verify that I have this amount of Bitcoin in my pocket at all times. I don't know what's an SVB. I don't know if I have access to my Signature bank account, right? So there was like a clear narrative violation there, clear narrative forming around this time. And we saw Bitcoin start to separate a little bit. But the time is like Bitcoin trades for a lot of reasons. There wasn't really any like momentum behind that. It was just like an idea that there was a narrative forming there. I think like 6 weeks past that, we are seeing like a stark difference between these two things. And the hope is it continues, right? That we continue to see that decoupling. I mean, I don't want to like call a rally short. Like I think it's probably not going to be sustained, and maybe Wendy has some opinions on this. But it is odd to see this happening because historically Bitcoin has traded so closely to tech stocks that it's almost laughable. That's how people see it. That's how investors see it. But we're seeing a change here in the midst of rate raises and tech stocks still being low and the NASDAQ not selling as high as we'd like it to be. But when do you want to get your thoughts on that?
So even though like this is kind of unprecedented, like because like you said that Bitcoin generally follows the tech stocks, I don't like to question Bitcoin's volatility. I don't like to question these types of moves because just when you think that you can kind of time the market correctly and then you get this big move that happens, whether it's up or down, it's kind of, we just kind of go with it, especially as trading Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin generally does things that people don't expect it to do. And we can use TA, we can use fundamentals as much as we want, but when the market is trending a particular way, don't trade against the market. Just, you know, if you don't want to get in a position, that's fine. Just kind of sit on the sidelines. But it's always fun to see like these insane moves that happen, especially when all odds are against us. And I feel like that's why so many people can kind of resonate with Bitcoin and, you know, apply to so many different aspects of their lives or, you know, their ideologies, because it moves how it wants to move. And it's pretty exciting to see. And it's kind of this big silent protest that we all know about. It's like we're in this club, but we're not in this club because everybody can participate in it. It's super cool. I'm here for it. I love it.